I'm choosing him. But if it doesn't work out in a few months, we can talk, she said, expecting me to wait. I deleted her number that night. 3 months later, she showed up at my apartment crying. He'd dumped her. I answered the door with my new girlfriend behind me. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The last normal sound I remember was the kettle whistling. It was a Tuesday. I was making her tea, the way she liked it. Honey, no milk, because she'd had a long day. The steam fogged the window over our sink, blurring the city lights into golden smears. Our apartment. For 2 years, it had been a sanctuary. Now, it just felt like a set waiting for the scene to start. I'd felt the distance growing for weeks, a slow leak in a tire. Sarah had become a ghost in her own life, smiling at me through a pane of glass. Her phone, once left casually on the couch, now lived in her clenched fist or screened down on her thigh. The laughter that used to echo in our tiny kitchen had been replaced by the tense tap-tap-tap of her thumbs on glass. I carried the mug into the living room. She was curled on the far end of the sofa, legs tucked under her, staring at her phone with an intensity usually reserved for solving a crisis. A faint smile touched her lips. It vanished when she saw me. Thanks, she said, taking the mug without looking at me. Her thumb continued to scroll. Bad day? I asked, sitting in the armchair opposite, not next to her. A new habit. No, just long. She finally put the phone down, but placed it face down on the cushion beside her. A fortress wall. You? It was okay. The Henderson Project got the green light. That's great, she said, her voice a flat, practiced line. Her eyes drifted back to the silent black rectangle of her phone. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, loaded. It was the silence of something rotting. I took a breath. The plan had been to ease into it, to ask gentle questions. But the weight of it all, the silent dinners, the canceled plans, the way she flinched last week when I went to kiss her goodnight, it cracked something open in me. Who's Leo? The question hung in the air, simple and brutal. Her head snapped up. The color drained from her face, then flooded back in two bright, guilty spots on her cheeks. It was all the confirmation I needed. I'd seen the name last week, a notification that flashed on her locked screen as she showered. Leo. Can't stop thinking about last night winking face. I told myself it was a friend from work, a joke. But my gut, that quiet, loyal dog I'd been ignoring, knew. What? She breathed, but it was weak. A reflex. Leo, your coworker. The one you've been texting until 2 a.m. The one you had late work drinks with last Thursday. Who is he to you, Sarah? She didn't try to deny it. Instead, a strange relief seemed to wash over her, mixed with a defensive anger. She drew her knees up to her chest, wrapping her arms around them. Not a posture of sadness, but of fortification. He's a friend. He gets me. Gets you. I repeated the words, letting their hollow echo fill the space. And I don't. It's not that you don't, she said, her voice gaining a rehearsed momentum. It's just with you, it's all so planned. So safe. We have our routines, our little life. Leo is spontaneous. He sees the world differently. He makes me feel alive. Each word was a polished stone she'd been collecting, turning over in her mind. They tumbled out, clinical and cruel. Alive, I said. The word tasted like ash. I thought of holding her hair back while she was sick with food poisoning. Of driving across town at 3 a.m. to pick her up when her car broke down. Of the quiet, steadfast living we'd done together. That wasn't alive to her. It was boring. I love you, she said, and it was the worst thing she could have said. But I'm not in love with you anymore. It's like you're my best friend. And Leo, he's a spark. I need that spark. I just looked at her. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I just sat in the wreckage of our life and listened to her narrate the tour. The calm that settled over me was glacial. She mistook my silence for acquiescence, for the passive acceptance she'd just accused me of. Her posture softened slightly. She uncurled herself and leaned forward, her voice dropping into a confidential, almost tender tone. This was the real performance. Look, she said, reaching out to place her hand on my knee. I didn't pull away. I just looked at her hand, this familiar thing that now felt like a stranger's. I'm choosing him. I have to see where this goes. It feels important. She paused, searching my face for the devastation she expected. Finding only stillness, she continued, her words weaving the ultimate insult. But he's unpredictable, you know? It might not work out. He's not stable like you are. She said stable like it was a disease. So I just need some time. A few months. If it doesn't work out with him, we can talk. Okay. She squeezed my knee, a parody of comfort. A promise of future scraps from her table. Just don't hate me. Don't close any doors. Can you do that for me? The full, breathtaking audacity of it crashed over me. I wasn't a person to her. I was a pension plan. A reliable, boring fund she could cash in if her risky investment tanked. She had chosen to leave, but she demanded I hold my breath, my life, in suspension until she decided if her choice was worthy. The loyalty, the comfort, the safety she derided. She wanted to keep it on retainer. My heart didn't break in that moment. It turned to something else. Something cold and hard and clear. The love I'd felt didn't vanish. It was instantly fossilized, a relic of a man I no longer was. I slowly, deliberately, lifted her hand from my knee and placed it back in her own lap. The contact felt toxic. I looked into her eyes, and I saw no malice, just a profound, unshakable entitlement. That was worse. I understand, I said, my voice quiet, flat, and utterly final. The confusion that flickered in her eyes was the first satisfying thing I'd felt in weeks. She was prepared for tears, for yelling, for begging. She was prepared for a messy, emotional scene that would validate her choice. See, he's so dramatic, so needy. She was not prepared for a quiet man looking at her like she was a complicated problem he had just solved. She was not prepared to be understood and dismissed in the same breath. She opened her mouth, perhaps to clarify, to explain more, to ensure her safety net was securely fastened. But I was already gone. She left an hour later. She packed a hastily filled suitcase, her movements jerky and nervous, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It never did. I sat in the same armchair, watching her with the detached curiosity of a naturalist observing a strange creature. When the suitcase zipper screeched in the quiet, she finally broke. "Aren't you going to say anything?" Her voice was sharp, frayed at the edges. I looked at her, at the suitcase, at the door. "Drive safe." The slam of the door was her final word. The apartment didn't feel empty then. It felt still, cleansed of a terrible, humming tension I'd grown so used to I'd forgotten it was there. I didn't move for a long time. I listened to the silence. Then I got up and began. I started in the bathroom, her side of the counter, a hairdryer, 3 kinds of moisturizer, a ceramic jar full of bobby pins and elastics. I placed them neatly into a cardboard box I'd broken down from the recycling. I didn't smell her shampoo on the bottles. I just saw objects that needed relocating. From the shower caddy, I removed her floral-scented scrub and a razor with a pink handle. I wiped down the now empty spaces. I moved to the bedroom. My hands were steady. From the closet, I took the dresses she'd left, the sweaters she'd deemed off-season. I folded them with a precision I didn't know I possessed, creating sharp, orderly rectangles of fabric. I emptied her nightstand drawer, a half-read novel, a charging cable, a bottle of melatonin, a packet of tissues. The impersonal detritus of a shared life. The living room was next. The throw pillow she loved, the cozy blanket she'd always hogged. A water glass she'd used that morning, still sitting on a coaster. I washed it, dried it, and placed it in the box with the other things. There was no rage in it. No cathartic hurling of memories. This was an exorcism performed with surgical calm. I was not erasing her. I was auditing inventory and removing what no longer belonged. With every item packed, the space felt more like my own. Lighter. The last thing was the hardest, not emotionally, but logistically. The framed photo on the bookshelf. Us, at a friend's wedding a year ago, smiling, her head on my shoulder. I didn't open the frame. I didn't stare at it. I simply placed the entire thing, frame and all, face down in the last box. Click. Final entry. For boxes. That's what 2 years boiled down to. I taped them shut, the sound loud and definitive in the quiet apartment. I wrote Sarah in bold black marker on each one and lined them up by the front door like obedient soldiers. Then, and only then, I took out my phone. I navigated to her contact. A picture of her laughing, sunlight in her hair. I felt nothing. I hit edit. I deleted the number. I deleted the photo. I saved the contact as just Sarah, a blank, generic entry. Then I opened my messaging app, found our thread, a cascade of old I love yous, grocery lists, and memes that had slowly tapered into running late and K. I tapped the top right. Block this caller. A confirmation pop-up appeared. Block Sarah? I hit block. It was that simple. The digital cord cut. I sent one final text to the number I had just deleted but still knew by heart. It was 11:47 p.m. Me. Your remaining belongings are packed and by the front door. They will be outside apartment 4B tomorrow from 5 to 7 p.m. for pickup. After 7 p.m., they will be donated. The key to this apartment no longer works. I didn't wait for a reply. I put my phone on silent, went to bed, and slept a deep, dreamless sleep for the first time in months. The next evening, at 5:05, the knock came. I'd moved the boxes to the hallway. I opened the door, my body blocking the entrance to my apartment. She looked different, tired, but with a wired energy. She was dressed up, like she'd come from a date or was going to one. Leo's influence, I supposed. Her eyes flicked past me, trying to see inside, then down to the boxes with her name on them. Her performance was ready. "Hey," she said, attempting a soft, regretful smile. "Are you okay? I know this is hard." I barely slept. I didn't answer the question. "Your things are there," I said, nodding to the boxes. She flinched, thrown by the lack of script. "Right. Yeah." She hesitated, shifting her weight. I want you to know this is really difficult for me too. But it's for the best. For both of us." We were in a rut. I remained silent, leaning against the door jamb, waiting for her to finish so I could go back inside. Her frustration began to peek through the carefully constructed mask of compassionate dumper. "You're not even going to fight for us?" she asked, a brittle laugh escaping her. "See, this is what I mean. You're just so passive. You're just accepting it. Where's the emotion? Where's the fight?" There it was. The final, twisted logic. She wanted to be fought for. She wanted a grand, dramatic proof of her worth, even as she walked away. My calmness wasn't dignity to her. It was an insult. It denied her the starring role in the breakup tragedy. I finally pushed off from the doorframe and stood straight. I looked at her, really looked, not at the Sarah I'd loved, but at the person standing before me. The entitlement was still there, now tinged with panic because her show was falling flat. "There's nothing to fight for," I said, my voice even, devoid of the heat she so desperately wanted. "You made a choice. I'm making mine." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The script was in tatters. "Goodbye, Sarah." I stepped back into my apartment and closed the door. I heard a small, shocked sound from the other side. A gasp, maybe the beginning of a word. Then, after a long minute, the sound of boxes being shuffled, dragged down the hall. The distant groan of the elevator. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and drank it slowly, looking out at the now clear night. The silence was no longer heavy. It was peaceful. It was mine. The ghosting had begun. Not the petty, immature kind. The kind that was a natural consequence. When you treat someone like an option, you shouldn't be surprised to find yourself one day deleted from their world. I had simply accepted the demotion she'd given me, and in doing so, had fired her from my life entirely. The first week was a void, not of sadness, but of sensation. I moved through my days like an astronaut untethered in silent space. The absence of her was not a pain, it was a neutral fact. The apartment, now truly mine, echoed with a quiet I learned to appreciate. I ate when I was hungry, slept through the night, and left a mug in the sink without a twinge of guilt. I didn't look for her. I had blocked her number, but I'd also blocked her on every social platform in a single, methodical hour. I wasn't strong, I was thorough. I knew a moment of weakness could come from a stray photo, a tagged post. I eliminated the possibility. To her digital world, I simply ceased to exist. But the real world has threads, and ours were woven through mutual friends. They became my unwilling, fuzzy window into the karma that was beginning to simmer. The first thread was Mark, a friend from college who tried to stay neutral. "Hey, man, just checking in," he said over a beer a fortnight later. He fidgeted with his bottle. "So, Sarah and Leo, huh? That was sudden." "It was her choice," I said, taking a sip. My voice held no emotion. It was a weather report. "Yeah, she's really excited. Says he's electric." Mark made air quotes, his face uneasy. They're already talking about a weekend trip to the coast. Good for her, I said, and I meant it. The farther and faster she ran, the better. Mark looked at me, searching for bitterness, for a crack. He found only calm terrain. You're taking this really well. There's nothing to take, I said. It's done. The next thread was Qley, who was closer to Sarah and whose loyalty was thinner. Her update came a month in, via a text that vibrated with gossipy unease. Qley, okay so? Coast trip got canceled. Leo apparently double-booked with friends from out of town. Sarah was pissed, called him unreliable. I swear she used the word flaky. I didn't reply. The text was information, not an opening. I deleted it. My own life was slowly filling the space she'd vacated. I joined a climbing gym, finding a grim satisfaction in the purely physical struggle. I buried myself in the Henderson Project, delivering work that was sharper, more creative, without the constant drain of someone else's emotional static. I reconnected with friends I'd gently neglected, the ones who asked about me, not about us. I was rebuilding a man, piece by piece, and the blueprint was my own. The second month, the threads grew darker. I ran into Priya, a former co-worker of Sarah's, at the supermarket. Her eyes widened with pity when she saw me. Oh, hi. God, I heard about everything. How are you holding up? I'm well, thanks. How's the new job? She blinked, thrown by the normalcy. It's good. I'm good. She leaned in, her voice dropping. Listen, between us. Sarah's not. She came by the old office last week for lunch. Looked exhausted. Said Leo is a lot. Threw a tantrum at a nice restaurant because the wine wasn't to his liking. She spent the whole lunch comparing him to you, saying how you'd never make a scene. Priya shook her head. It was uncomfortable. A strange, quiet feeling bloomed in my chest. It wasn't schadenfreude. It was validation. The universe was simply proving a theorem I'd already solved. Unstable things are unstable. I hope she figures it out, I said, and it was the truth. I hoped she'd figure it out far away from me. The final thread snapped about 10 weeks in. It was Dave, a mutual friend who had initially been firmly Team Sarah. His call was brusque, awkward. Hey, you heard, I guess. Heard what, Dave? About Leo. The guy's a total piece of work. Dumped her. Via text, if you can believe it. I could believe it. I said nothing. Dave barreled on, his tone now one of grievance, as if Sarah's poor judgment had personally inconvenienced him. Yeah, some bullshit text about her being too needy and living in the past. Can you imagine? After everything she left for him. She's a wreck. Absolutely shattered. I waited. I knew what was coming. So, she's going to reach out, man. She's real sorry. I think you should hear her out. Everyone deserves a second chance, right? I looked out my window at the city lights, my reflection clear and calm in the glass. Dave, I said, my voice flat. The moment she chose to leave, she used up every chance she had with me. My involvement ended then. Don't call me to mediate her regrets. I hung up. The circle was complete. The spark had burned her down to cinders. The unpredictable, exciting future had lasted less than a season. And now, the safety net she'd so arrogantly assumed would be there was about to get a very firm answer. The outreach began as I knew it would. First, a text from an unknown number the day after Dave's call. Unknown. Hey, it's Sarah. I heard you moved. Hope you're okay. Can we talk? I stared at the number. No apology. No acknowledgement of the nuclear bomb she'd dropped. Just a casual hey, as if 3 months of silence and a different man were a minor misunderstanding. I deleted it. 2 days later, a voicemail. Her voice was thick, choked, the performance of remorse. It's me. Look, I made a huge mistake. The biggest of my life. Leo was not who I thought. He was cruel. What you and I had was real. It was safe, and I was too stupid to see that safe is everything. Please call me. I need to hear your voice. I saved the voicemail, not out of sentiment, but as a digital trophy, a perfect, preserved specimen of hypocrisy. I did not call. Then, the flying monkeys. Her sister, Melissa, whose number I still had. James. It's Mel. Her tone was imperious, the family entitlement clearly genetic. Sarah's really hurting. That asshole did a number on her. The least you could do is hear her out. Be the bigger person. Be a man about it. I felt a flicker of cold amusement. Melissa, I said, my voice polite and impenetrable. My responsibility to Sarah ended the moment she chose to leave. I am not her emotional support option. Do not contact me again. I ended the call and blocked her number 2. The fortress was sealed, but entitlement doesn't respect walls. It believes doors should always open for it. It was a Tuesday night, almost poetically mirroring the night it had begun. Rain sheeted down my living room window. I was in the kitchen, the air rich with the smell of garlic and red wine. Maya stood beside me, stirring a simmering pan of bolognese. She was telling a story about a difficult client, her hands animated, her eyes rolling with affectionate exasperation. We'd been dating for 6 weeks. It was easy. It was light. She was a warm, steady presence who asked for nothing but companionship and gave the same freely. The knock on the door was intrusive, out of sync with the soft jazz and the rain. "You expecting someone?" Maya asked, glancing at the time. "No," I said, drying my hands. A cold certainty settled in my gut. I walked to the door and opened it. There she stood, Sarah, drenched, her hair plastered to her skull, mascara bleeding down her cheeks in black trails. She looked smaller, deflated, a waterlogged version of the woman who'd left. Her eyes, wide and desperate, locked onto mine. "You didn't answer any of my..." She began, her voice a shaky ruin. "Sarah," I said, my tone neutral, my body firmly blocking the doorway. "What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. Please." The please was a ragged sob. I was so stupid. So stupid. Leo, he used me. He said awful things. Everything you were, he wasn't. You were kind. You were steady. I see it now. I see everything now. I want to fix this. I want to come home." Her eyes darted past me, trying to peer into the warm, lit apartment, searching for the familiar landscape of her backup plan. From the kitchen, Maya's voice called out, warm, curious, utterly unaware of the earthquake at the door. "Babe, everything okay? The sauce is almost ready to plate." The effect was instantaneous. Sarah's face, already pale, went bone white. Her jaw went slack. Her desperate, pleading expression froze, then shattered into pure, unvarnished shock. It was the look of someone who'd read the last page of a book only to find the story had been rewritten. I didn't turn. I kept my eyes on Sarah, watching the realization detonate in her mind. The safety net was not just gone, it was now holding someone else. I allowed a faint, unreadable smile to touch my lips. It held no warmth, no malice. It was simply the expression of a man stating an obvious fact. "It's fine, Maya," I called back, my voice calm and even. "Just someone from my past who got lost." I looked at Sarah, at the crumbling ruins of her arrogance and her plan. The rain dripped from her jacket onto my welcome mat. "You were right, Sarah," I said, my voice quiet, final, and utterly clear. "It didn't work out with him." I paused, letting the full, horrific irony of the moment sink into her. Her eyes welled with new, different tears, tears of understanding, of utter defeat. "But you were wrong about everything else," I continued. "We have nothing to talk about." My life moved on. I took a slight step back, my hand on the door. "I suggest you do the same." I closed the door. The soft, definitive click of the latch was the period at the end of the sentence. I stood there for a second, listening. I heard a choked sound, a muffled sob, and then the slow, shuffling footsteps retreating down the hall. I turned. Maya was leaning against the kitchen doorway, a gentle question in her eyes. "Everything all right?" I walked to her, the scent of garlic and herbs and her perfume enveloping me. I put my hands on her waist and kissed her forehead. "Just a ghost," I said, and for the first time that night, my voice was warm, infused with a present and tangible love. "Now, about that sauce, it smells incredible." She smiled, the question fading, trust replacing it. "It is. You're gonna love it." As I helped her plate the food, I felt it, a profound, quiet lightness. No anger, no lingering pain, not even pity. Just the serene, unshakable knowledge that the past was finally, completely, just that. The ghost had come calling, and finding no one home, had simply faded away for good. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.